Chapter is description of motion in one dimension. Actually, now we are starting the portion which is named as kinematics. And kinematics means kinematics. Kine means it refers to the word motion. Motion. Okay? And matics refers to study. Right, so kinematics means now in this part, in this unit, we will study the motion. Okay, now you will have to understand this, that if I particularly start with beginning, then your mechanics, actually we have studying mechanics. This mechanics can be divided into three parts. One is your statics, then the second one is kinematics, right, and the third one is dynamics. Right, statics means study of those body which are in the state of rest. Okay, it is related to the state of rest. The body is not moving. What will be the different properties of that body? What will be the different terms related to that condition of rest? That is included in statics. Then second is kinematics, as I told you about motion. Okay, but only motion. In this part, kinematics, we study only the motion and we do not care about the reason of motion. Okay, reason of motion is, what is the reason of motion? The reason of motion is force. Who creates the motion? Force creates the motion. So we do not study about the force here in this section. We only study about the motion, the types of motion, how body moves, but we do not care about the reason of motion. This third part is in which we study about the reason of motion. Reason of motion and plus the motion. Okay. We study about the motion as well as the reason of motion also, and the reason of motion is force. So that we study in this part, this dynamics part. Okay. Now here we have already finished chapter number 1 and 2. Now kinematics, your chapter number 2 and 3, they are the parts of kinematics. Okay. Then chapter number 4, this one is your chapter number, sorry, this is your chapter number 3 now. We are starting. So these are chapter number 3 and 4. Not 2 and 3, but they are 3 and 4 because 1 and 2 we have already finished. So this will be your, the 3 and 4 chapters are related to kinematics, and chapter number 5, 6, they are related to this dynamics part. Okay. So today we are starting chapter number 3, which is description of motion in one dimension. Okay. Now, so it is clear that we are going to start the kinematics. Now, kinematics is the study of motion. Now, this motion can be again of two types. It can be that rest is also considered as a state of motion. Rest, the state of rest is also considered as the state of motion. Okay, so motion can be again classified into groups like rest, like your motion means motion can be again of different types like rectilinear. Rectilinear means straight line, moving in a straight line, rectilinear motion. Then it can be circulatory, moving on a circle, circulatory motion. Then it can be oscillatory. Oscillatory motion means about a mean position, like a pendulum oscillates about a mean position. Pendulum oscillates, the to and fro motion, that is oscillatory motion. There is one more motion, rotationary. Rotationary means rotating on its own axis, on like Earth is rotating on its own axis. Okay, so rotationary motion. So we have different types of motions. Okay, now the first term you will come across in this chapter is called as the point object. First term is point object. Now point object means when the size of the object is very small as compared to the displacement it has undergone, then we say that the object can be considered as the point object. Means like suppose I can give you an example. Suppose I will give you an example. Like suppose this pen has some length. It is not a point object. You cannot represent this pen with the help of a point, right? But this pen is a point object when compared to the size of Himalaya, that Himalaya range. If you compare the size of this pen with that size of the Himalaya, then you can say that it is nearly a point object. One more example you can take from your maps. Okay, when we draw the map of India, suppose we draw the map of India, then how we represent New Delhi? We make a dot and we represent, we write this as New Delhi, correct? But whether the size of New Delhi is so small that can you represent it with the help of a point? No. New Delhi is very big, but still that size of the New Delhi is very small, is so small in comparison to the size of India that you can represent New Delhi with the help of a point. So point object means the point object simply means that when the size of the object is very small, okay, then very small as compared to the displacement, as compared to the distance covered by the object. When the path followed is very large, when the path is very large and the object size is very small as compared to that, then we can consider the object as the point object. So like suppose I can give you another example, that the size of a railway carriage, means a railway carriage can be considered as a point object in comparison to the distance between Pilani and Delhi. Okay, otherwise that's a railway carriage is not like a point. It has a big size, it has a huge size, but the size means when we say that something is point object, it is in comparison to some condition. In physics, we compare with distance traveled, the path followed, okay, the path covered by the object. So object, when the size of object is very small as compared to the path covered by the object, then we say that the object is a point object. Okay. All right. So next term is called as the frame of reference. Frame of reference. Reference means, like suppose we have origin. In maths, in coordinate system, we have origin and we mark all other points as compared to, in comparison with the position of origin. Means suppose if my origin is here, then I will draw two axes and I will start marking the points starting from here, that 1, 2, 3, like this. And if suppose my zero, this zero is suppose here, then I will start marking from here 1, 2, 3. Now this point or this point, they are the points of reference. Reference means it is the point which is fixed, and all other points are marked in comparison with this fixed point. So that is called as the point of reference. Similarly, we have something called as the frame of reference also. Okay, I will give you an example. Suppose there is a railway coach and a person is sitting inside it, right? And this is moving with a velocity of VA, right? Another person is in another coach and that is also moving with velocity, suppose v. Suppose both are moving with velocity v, right? A third person is standing on the platform and his velocity is 0. He is standing on the platform. Now, simply you can understand this, that for this person, suppose we consider the motion of this person A, B, C. Now, A is in state of rest with respect to B. Now the distance between A and B, since they both are moving with the same velocity in same direction, so the gap between A and B will always remain constant. So what the person sitting in B will feel, he will feel that A is in the state of rest. Okay, but what about C? C will feel that both are moving with some velocity, means this person A is in state of rest with respect to B, but is in state of motion with respect to C. Okay, so this is the person. For this person, now the reference, if suppose you consider this person as the reference point, then A is not moving with respect to B. Now B is the reference point. If the position of B is the reference point, then A is not moving with respect to B. But if C is the reference point, then A is moving. Okay, means if you take two different situations, if you take the reference point means you are comparing with whom? Okay, if you compare position of A with B, if you are taking B as the reference, then A is in the state of rest. Okay, but if you consider C as reference, okay, if you compare the motion of A with respect to C, so you are comparing with C, so your reference is C, then if you take this as your reference, the position of C as the reference point, then A is in motion. Means that it depends whether a body is moving or not moving. It depends on the frame of reference, who is looking at the motion, with respect to which you are comparing the motion. Okay, actually the object is in the state of motion, but for B he is in state of rest. So this is called as the frame of reference. Now these frame of references, they are of two types. One is inertial frame of reference, okay, and second are non-inertial frame of reference. Now inertial frames of references are those in which Newton's laws of motion apply. If a frame of reference is there which follows the Newton's laws of motion, the first law, second law, third law, if it follows the Newton's three laws, then we call that frame of reference as inertial frame of reference. Okay, non-inertial frame of reference is that in which these Newton's laws of motion do not hold true. Okay, means they become wrong in for that particular motion. For example, I will tell you just simply the conditions that in which condition this inertial frame of reference will act. The conditions of rest or uniform motion. Uniform motion means with uniform speed, constant speed, and uniform direction. Okay, if a body is in the state of rest or is moving with uniform motion, uniform speed and uniform direction, constant direction, then in those motions we can apply Newton's laws of motion, and therefore the frame of reference will be called as the inertial frame of reference. Another example is, suppose the observer himself is the person who is looking at the motion, the person himself is in some kind of accelerated motion. Okay, the person himself is in some kind of accelerated motion, then in that case the observer himself is in accelerated motion. Remember this. This is the case of non-inertial frame of reference. And one thing I can give you an example. Suppose you can say, suppose something is falling down with uniform speed, and a person who's looking at that object is falling down freely under the gravity. Okay, suppose one person is coming down, a person is coming down inside a lift. Okay, a person is coming down inside a lift with uniform speed, and the person who is looking at this person is falling freely. Freely means under the effect of gravity. So if the person is falling freely, then there will be acceleration due to gravity. Means the person who's looking, who's observing the motion, is himself in the state of acceleration. Now that case is the case where what will happen, this person is falling down, this person is falling down, but their gap will go on increasing. So what this person will feel, that this person is not falling down, it is actually going up. The feeling will be like that. This person who's falling down freely under the gravity with some acceleration 9.8 meter per second square will feel that this person is not falling down but rather going up. Okay, he will feel so, right? So that is your case where the observer himself is in the state of acceleration, and such type of frames of references are called as non-inertial frames of reference. Just remember one thing, that you cannot apply Newton's laws of motion to these frames of references. Newton's laws of motion means you cannot use that formula, the rate of change of momentum is equal to force. You cannot use that formula here in these non-inertial frames of references. One thing I would like to discuss with you, which is important from the competitive point of view but not related to our syllabus in class 11th, and that is the concept of pseudo force. Pseudo force. The concept of pseudo force. Pseudo means, the word pseudo means false. False means which is not there actually. So it's a false force. False force means, suppose I would like to again give you an example. Suppose you are sitting inside a bus and the bus is taking turn like this. Okay, suppose I will give you an example. Suppose I'm sitting inside the bus and the bus is taking the turn towards right. So my body tends to fall towards the left, outside. Okay, this is a common experience, that if suppose bus is taking turn towards the right, then my body will tend to fall towards the left. Now who's pushing me towards the left? Nobody is pushing me. No. Yes, what happened?
I think mass of inertia की वजह से connect हो जाते हैं ना.
हाँ, लेकिन बेटा inertia तो ठीक है, मतलब but inertia is not a force ना. अगर मान लीजिए suppose if you are falling in some direction, then what should be the reason? Reason should be force. Okay, inertia is just the capability of maintaining the motion. It's not a force, it's capability. Right? Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Inertia is not a force. If suppose I'm standing here, okay, if suppose when I will fall, when somebody will push me, only in that case. Otherwise, will I fall simply means just now if I suppose, is it possible कि मैं एकदम से ऐसे गिर जाऊँ? Not possible unless and until somebody applies force on me. Okay. So my question is, you just try to put up your mind into that situation that you are sitting inside a bus and the bus is taking turn towards the right and your body tends to fall towards the left, means outside. When if the center of the turn is here, then the body falls away from the center, which we call as centrifugal force. Have you heard about centrifugal force? Have you heard about this name, centrifugal force?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there are
Yes,
two
sir.
forces. One is centripetal, other is centrifugal force, right? So what is happening? Is there anyone who's pushing you outwards? Nobody is pushing us. But what is happening in this case, that this case is the case of continuously changing direction, a motion in which the direction is continuously changing. When you are taking the turn, your direction is changing, right? And change in direction is again a kind of acceleration. See, there is a term called as velocity, right? You must have heard about the velocity. Velocity is a vector quantity. It have magnitude, it have direction, both fixed, right? If the direction alone will change, not the magnitude, then also you will say that there is some change in velocity. Okay, if the direction alone is changing, then also it will be considered as the change in velocity. Now, if change in velocity is there, then there will be acceleration. Now, the person who's sitting inside the bus, who's observing the motion, he himself is in the accelerated motion. Okay, so whenever an observer is in the state of acceleration, okay, there on that person, on the observer, there will act a force which is called as a pseudo force, which is actually not there. It is only a feeling of force. Like I gave you an example, bus is taking turn towards the right, your body tends to fall towards the left only because of the action of that pseudo force. Okay, why we call it as pseudo force? Because nobody is applying the force. There is no force actually. It is only a feeling of force which is because of inertia. Okay, so that force is called as the pseudo force. So it means your centrifugal force actually is a pseudo force, right? That balances the centripetal force. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, but however, this is not related to our syllabus, but they generally ask questions from this pseudo force in competitive exams. Okay. Alright, so we move on to the next part. So this was your simple definition, frame of references, two types of frames of references. Inertial, in which Newton's laws of motion hold good. Non-inertial frame of references, where Newton's laws of motion do not hold true. Okay, simple definition. Okay. Next is now the motion, types of motion on the basis of dimensions. Dimensions. So we have three types of motion basically: one dimensional, 1D, two dimensional, 2D, three dimensional, 3D. And now a new concept has come up, which is the fourth dimension also, but still work is going on there on this fourth dimension. So we have nothing to discuss about this fourth dimension. So we will consider only three dimensions. We have three different types of motion on the basis of dimensions: one dimensional, two dimensional, three dimensional. Now suppose that we have a coordinate system 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Right? Now suppose the body at time t equals to 0 is here. It starts from here. Then this. Right? Now what is happening? That one coordinate is changing. Alright? One coordinate is changing and one coordinate is not changing. You tell me what is the value of, what are the coordinates here? It is 1, 2. What are the coordinates? 2, 2. What are the coordinates? 3, 2. So you can say that one coordinate is continuously changing, but the other coordinate remains fixed. Okay? So such type of motion, which is actually a straight line motion, always a straight line motion, is a one-dimensional motion. So this is nothing but motion in straight line. Okay? A motion in straight line is one-dimensional motion. Now two-dimensional motion is motion in plane. In plane means, suppose now if I change this, suppose the object started from here, then goes like this, then goes like this. So what are the coordinates? 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So what is happening? Both the coordinates are changing. This is a motion in plane. So if two coordinates of the object, the positions, both the coordinates are changing, then we call it as two-dimensional motion. This is motion in plane. Actually, we have three dimensions. Actually, whenever we need to represent a point, we must have three coordinates, which is called as the three-dimensional geometry. Three coordinates we must express, because actually we have the points in space also. Okay, so what we have done till now, that we were representing the points in a coordinate plane, right? But from class 11th, you will represent the points in coordinate space, and space will have three dimensions: length, breadth, and height. So suppose if your length is your x-axis, then breadth is y-axis, then your height will become the z-axis, the third coordinate, and therefore you will represent the points like this: x, y, z. Right? So every point can be represented as a point of space, whether the point only one coordinate is changing. If only one coordinate changes, only one, either this or this or this, then we say that the motion is one-dimensional motion. If two coordinates are changing and one remains fixed, okay, then we call it as a motion in two dimension, which is actually a motion in plane. The third one is three-dimensional motion, when all the three coordinates are changing. Like suppose I will consider one of the corners as my origin, and let us suppose that the wall on my back is, that edge is x-axis, on my right is y-axis, and the height is z-axis. Let us suppose that this tip of the pen, it is having some coordinates. You will draw perpendicular to x-axis, you will get x coordinate. Perpendicular to y-axis, you will get y coordinate. Perpendicular to z-axis, you will get z coordinate. Now another point which is at the tip of my finger, okay, now it will have some other x, y, z. So if I move from this point to this point, my x will change, y will change, z will change. When all the three coordinates changes, then we call that type of motion as three-dimensional motion, and it is the motion in space. Motion in space. Okay. Our syllabus includes this and this only. Our syllabus does not include this part. The motion in space is not included. Only included is motion in straight line and motion in plane. So if you look at the names of your chapter number 3 and 4, their names are motion in straight line, okay, and the fourth chapter is your motion in plane. So these two topics are covered in your chapter number 3 and chapter number 4. Okay. Now a small discussion on scalar and vector quantities. So physical quantities are of two types, you already know that: scalar and vector. So scalar have magnitude only, and they have magnitude plus direction. Okay. So if to specify, to express a quantity, if magnitude alone is enough, then we call that quantity as a scalar quantity, right? And if to express a quantity you need two things, both the things, magnitude as well as direction, then it is a vector quantity. Now scalar quantities like your mass, okay, your time, there is no direction for mass also. Vector quantities are like velocity, okay, your displacement, your force, they are vector quantities, and so many others also. So these are called as scalar and vector quantities. Okay. Now we start with the first topic, and that is displacement. I think no need to discuss about the distance, the scalar quantity. You have the scalar quantity distance, also called as path traveled. Okay, distance or path traveled. So it is the total length of the path which is traveled by the object in a given particular time interval is called as the path traveled or the distance covered. Okay. The term we need to discuss is displacement. Displacement. What is displacement? Displacement, suppose a body starts from A and reaches to B through this path. Okay. Then this total length of the path is called as distance traveled, but the shortest distance between A and B is called as displacement. Okay. Suppose a body, one, moves along this path, another body moves along this path, right? So both the bodies, they have different distance traveled, but they have same displacement. The shortest distance between initial and final position, Okay, initial and final positions means the time of interval during which you are observing the motion. So at the beginning of that time interval, that is initial position. After completing that time interval, the point is final position. So this is called as displacement, the shortest distance between initial and final position, right? Okay, now one thing you can easily understand from here, that displacement is always less than or equal to distance traveled. Okay, because this is the shortest distance, so distance can never be smaller than displacement. Displacement and distance, displacement can be less than or equal to the distance traveled. When it will be equal? When the object is moving in the straight line. Suppose there is another body which moves along this path. So for the third body, the displacement and distance are equal. Okay, so displacement can never be more than the distance traveled, right? What will be SI unit? SI unit is meter, right? What will be the dimensional formula? Dimensional formula is L. L alone, M0, T0, right? L only is the dimensional formula. Okay. Now next is, we already know about speed. What is speed? Speed is distance upon time, right? Distance traveled in particular time, right? Per unit time, how much distance is traveled by the object, that is speed. Distance upon time. There is a term called velocity. Velocity is displacement upon time. When you divide the displacement by time, you get velocity. Okay. When you divide distance by time, you get speed. Okay. Now I can give you an example related to distance and displacement. Suppose I say that a person traveled 10 meter in 5 seconds, and another condition is, suppose a person travels 10 meter in the north direction in 5 seconds. So the first one is the case of distance traveled, because I have not mentioned the direction. Second one is the condition for displacement, because I am mentioning the direction also, that in which direction he traveled. He traveled along the north direction. Okay, so that becomes displacement. Now distance per unit time is the speed, and displacement per unit time is velocity. Okay. Okay, now this velocity, we will discuss this velocity in detail, right? Now this velocity can be again of two types. One is average velocity and other is called as instantaneous velocity. Okay. Now average velocity is, suppose a person travels Pilani to Delhi nearly 300 km in 180 minutes. Suppose 3 hours. Suppose this is a condition. Now if I ask you that what was his velocity in first 2 hours, velocity in first 2 hours, and there can be another question, that what was the velocity at 150 minutes, 150th minute. 100, what was his velocity exactly at 150th minute? Okay, and what was his velocity in first 2 hours? So here what you have, the first 2 hours, this is a time interval. Time interval, I think you can understand simply that time interval is like a span of time. जैसे हम 2 घंटे बोल देते हैं, 4 घंटे बोल देते हैं, तो that is a span of time. From where to where, that is not mentioned, right? What is this 150th minute? This is an instant. This is an instant of time, right? Suppose a body is moving and I ask you that what was his velocity exactly at the second or the fourth second. What was the velocity at the fourth second? Okay, so that becomes instant of time. So now here what we are finding, velocity at instant, which is called as instantaneous velocity. And what we are finding here, the velocity during a time interval, that is your average velocity. Okay. Once again I can give you example. Suppose the person traveled Pilani to Delhi 300 km in 180 minutes, or you can say the 3 hours time. Okay. So what was, if I ask you that what was his speed, so you will find out 300 upon 3 equals to 100 km per hour, right? The speed of the person is 100 km per hour. But is it necessary that every time he traveled with this speed? It is not so. Means when suppose some congested area will come, so the speed of that person will be less than 100. At some signal point, like suppose that traffic signal point, he will have to stop also. So there his speed will become exactly 0. When he will get suppose a open highway, a empty highway, there his speed would have been more than 100 km per hour. What this simply means is average of the speed, how he has traveled. What is the average speed? It is not the exact speed with which he has traveled. Okay, this is the average of that speed. So it is called as the average velocity, right? But when suppose if I ask you that what was his velocity at 1/50th minute, then that is your instantaneous velocity. So this is the difference between your average and instantaneous velocities, right? Now, how can you find out? How can you find out these values? Suppose you have suppose x is your displacement, right? Suppose x is the displacement. Let us start like this. Suppose at t1 time he starts at t1 and his position was time position. His position was x1, and at time t2 his position was suppose x2. When we started to observe the motion, suppose at t1 time his position, not the distance traveled or nothing. I'm just telling you about the position, right? So position is x1 and at time t2 the position is x2. So how much displacement he has made in this time interval? How much is the displacement? Displacement is equal to x2 minus x1. Giving you again the example, suppose t1, suppose at after 1 hour we started observing the motion, and suppose after 1 hour the person was at a distance of 100 km from Pilani, because he started from Pilani at t equals to 0. He started from Pilani and going to Delhi. Suppose we started to observe the motion after 1 hour. So at 1 hour, just after 1 hour, he was at a distance of 100 km from Pilani. Now after suppose 2 hours, right, his position was suppose 200 km from Pilani. Just an example. Then how much displacement he has made in this time interval? From 100 he started and reached to 200. So how much displacement he has made? 200 minus 100, right? And how much time he has taken? 2 minus 1, right? Okay, so this is your time and that is your displacement. I was writing here displacement. And how much is time taken? Time equals to t2 minus t1. Simply you can mark it by delta x. Now this is a symbol delta, a triangular shape. This is a Greek symbol called as delta. Delta in physics and mathematics from class 11th and 12th will refer to change. Whenever delta sign is written, it means that change. So what you will read this as change in x. Change in the value of x. This is your change in value of time. Okay. Now this will, what is velocity? Velocity is equal to displacement upon time. So it is what? Delta x upon delta t, right? But what we are getting here, we are getting, suppose if I take that example, then 100 kilometer in 1 hour, it is meaning that he traveled with 100 kilometer in 1 hour, but doesn't mean that he traveled throughout the 1 hour with 100 kilometer speed. It will be different, but on an average he covered 100 kilometer in 1 hour. So what type of velocity is this? This is average. Okay, so remember here I am mentioning the formula that average velocity. I am mentioning the formula here that V average is equal to delta x upon delta t. Delta x means the change in position, which is equal to displacement, which means displacement, the change in position upon the change in time, okay, which is time taken. So when you take the ratio of delta x and delta t, you get V average. Okay. Now we come on to the second one, which is instantaneous velocity. V instantaneous. Now this is your time interval. Okay. Delta t, what is delta t? Delta t is the time taken, and what is that? That is time interval. Suppose I make this time interval infinitesimally small. If I make this time interval infinitesimally small, if I decrease 1 hour, it will become 30 minutes. If I decrease 30 minutes, it can become 1 minute. If I again decrease 1 minute, it can become 1 second. If I further decrease it, it will become 1 millisecond or 1 nanosecond. But if you go on decreasing, what at the end you will get? That when you decrease, when you take this condition, limit delta t tends to 0, that your delta t refers to instant. Okay? Your time interval with condition limit delta t tends to 0 is nothing but instant. Okay, you can simply understand that if you will, time interval is a span of time. If you will go on decreasing, finally it will become an instant. Okay, so this, if I put up this condition, then what I will get? Delta x upon delta t. Now what I have changed here? I have changed my time interval into instant. So what I will get with this formula? I will get V instantaneous velocity, and this in mathematics is called as dx upon dt, जिसको हमने पढ़ा था derivative of displacement with respect to time. If you will take the derivative of displacement with respect to time, what you will get? You will get instantaneous velocity. And if you simply take the ratio of displacement in time, you get average velocity, right? This is very important thing. Dx upon dt is the derivative of x with respect to t, means derivative of displacement position, the change in position, that is derivative of displacement with respect to time. Okay. This is the method to find out the instantaneous velocity and average velocity. Now I will move on to graph. Graphically I will try to explain this condition so that it becomes more clear to you that.
Excuse me sir.
Yes.
सर जो आपने इंस्टेंटेनियस वेलोसिटी में जो डेल्टा टी टेंड्स टू 0 लिखा था, तो उसमें फिर डेल्टा टी को की वैल्यू 0 ही लेंगे?
No, it doesn't mean tends to 0 and equal to 0 are different things. Tends to 0 means it is so small that it is approximately 0. Okay, tends to 0 and exactly 0 are different things. Suppose if I write 0.0000, I put up infinite number of zeros, and then at last I write 1. Okay, can you say that this is equal to 0? Can you say this, that this is equal to 0? No, this is not 0, but this is so small that it is nearly 0. If suppose on your graph paper, if I ask you, this is your 0, if I ask you to mark this point, where you will mark? Where you will mark?
Sir, very near to 0.
It is so near to 0 that you cannot separate the 2 points. Am I right?
Yes, yes sir.
Yes, no. So but beta speak loudly.
So फिर t की वैल्यू को कैलकुलेट कैसे करें?
बेटा t की वैल्यू आपको डालनी ही नहीं पड़ेगी. मैंने आपको क्या कहा? आपको मैंने पूरा डेरिवेटिव वाला पार्ट सिखाया था ना. डेरिवेटिव हमने किया था ना.
यस सर.
तो डेरिवेटिव वाले पार्ट में कहीं पर भी आपको इसमें ये तो उसका एक मेथड मतलब उसका एक्सप्रेशन है. जब हम ये लिखते हैं लिमिट डेल्टा टी टेंड्स टू 0 डेल्टा एक्स अपॉन डेल्टा टी, इट मींस नथिंग बट dx अपॉन dt, जिसको हम लिखते हैं f डैश. आपको डेरिवेटिव सिखाया था ना मैंने, पूरा डिफरेंशिएशन इंटीग्रेशन सिखाया था ना. तो
yes,
अभी एक बार ना, अभी ये आपका जो क्वेश्चन है ना, इट इज टू अर्ली. एक बार ना थोड़ा सा मैं आगे चलूंगा तब आपको बेहतर क्लियर हो जाएगा. अभी मैंने इसको कंप्लीट नहीं किया, ठीक है. अभी सिर्फ आप इतना ध्यान रखो कि जब आपको इंस्टेंटेनियस वेलोसिटी निकालनी है तो आपको क्या करना है, आपको डेरिवेटिव लेना है डिस्प्लेसमेंट का विद रिस्पेक्ट टू टाइम, डिफरेंशिएट करना है उसको. और जब आपको एवरेज वेलोसिटी निकालना है तो फिर कुछ नहीं करना है, सिंपली आप द डिस्प्लेसमेंट अपॉन टाइम डेल्टा एक्स अपॉन डेल्टा टी, चेंज इन पोजीशन अपॉन चेंज इन टाइम आप कर लेंगे. ठीक है. थोड़ा सा भी नया कॉन्सेप्ट है. एक बार मैं थोड़ा आगे चलूंगा तो आपको कुछ और चीजें मैं इसमें अभी बताऊंगा, फिर आपको क्लियर हो जाएगा. अभी थोड़ा सा टू अर्ली हो गया ये क्वेश्चन ना. ठीक है. एक बार पहले मैं कंप्लीट कर लूं, देन यू आस्क. आई विल आस्क यू दैट व्हाट आर योर डाउट्स, यू नाउ आस्क मी. अगर आपका बीच में कोई डाउट होता ना, यू कीप योर पेन पेंसिल विद यू, मींस नोटबुक एंड पेन विद यू, एंड यू जस्ट राइट योर डाउट, ताकि बाद में आप फिर मुझसे पूछ सकें उसको, अगर वो क्लियर नहीं होता है. ठीक है. एक बार पहले मुझे इसको एक बार मैं अपनी तरफ से कंप्लीट कर लूं, देन आई विल टेक योर डाउट्स. ठीक है.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so now graphically what this means, graphical interpretation. Now suppose at t1 the position was x1, t2 position was x2. Now I draw a graph here. This is my time axis and this is my position axis. Position, time, right? Suppose my object, this is my graph. Okay, suppose this type of graph I am getting. So this is what, this is my position x1 and this is time t1. He made some changes in the, he made some accelerations in the velocity, and finally at the time t2, this one, he reaches at the position, at time t2 he reaches at this position x2, right? So the coordinates here are t2 x2 and the coordinates here are t1 x1, right? Now I want to obtain the average velocity. So how I will get that average velocity? What I will do, I will join this. Okay, what is my formula for average velocity? It is delta x upon delta t, which is equal to x2 minus x1 upon t2 minus t1. Now if I draw the perpendicular here, what will be this length? This length. See, this complete length is x2, right? And this length is x1. So how much is this part? x2 minus x1, right? What is this complete part? This is t2 and this one is t1. So this part, this length is t2 minus t1. Okay, if I name this as a b, a b, because this was the initial position, this is final, and let us suppose that this is m. So it is nothing but it is your bm upon am, correct? If my this angle is theta, right? If my this angle is theta, can I write tan theta? I think you are getting.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not too fast, no? If suppose this angle is theta, then opposite side by adjacent side will be tan theta. Now if I increase this line here and here, how much will be this angle? Theta, corresponding angles, right? What this
Yes,
theta
sir.
is now, this theta is the angle made by the chord with positive direction of time axis. Am I right? This is called correct? बेटा प्लीज रेस्पॉन्स ना, ये बहुत थोड़ा सा
Yes,
टफ
sir.
पार्ट है
Yes, sir.
और इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट है, ठीक है?
Yes,
बहुत
sir.
इंपॉर्टेंट सेक्शन है क्योंकि इसके बिना आप पूरा कंफ्यूज हो जाओगे, ठीक है? दिस इज द कॉर्ड, AB इज द कॉर्ड, and what is theta? Theta is the angle made by the chord with positive direction of time axis. Correct? So, what is that? Theta. It is the angle made by the chord with positive direction of time axis. Do you remember something I told you about slope? Slope के बारे में कुछ बताया था आपको, याद है? नहीं
Yes,
याद है,
sir.
भूल गए, है ना? भूल गए। ओके ठीक है, मैं ये हेडिंग हटा के आपको फिर से एक बार शॉर्ट में बता रहा हूँ, ठीक है? व्हाई आई एम टेकिंग सो मच पेन इन टेलिंग यू दिस, बिकॉज इट इज वेरी मच इंपॉर्टेंट। आपको फिजिक्स बहुत आसान है अगर आपको 3 चीजें अगर आपको आती हैं, ठीक है? 11th में मेरी बात को ध्यान रखना, आपके लिए फिजिक्स बिल्कुल आसान है अगर आपको 3 चीजें आती हैं। एक आपको कैलकुलस आता है, यानी कि डिफरेंशिएशन इंटीग्रेशन आपको आता है। एक आपको ग्राफ रीड करना आता है, आपको ग्राफ समझ में आते हैं। और एक अगर आपको वेक्टर्स आते हैं, वेक्टर समझते हैं ना, वेक्टर क्वांटिटीज, वेक्टर्स को कैसे सॉल्व करना है, वेक्टर क्या होते हैं। अगर आपको ये 3 चीजें आती हैं तो फिजिक्स आपके लिए बहुत आसान है, ठीक है? इसलिए ग्राफ में आपको कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं रखना है। ओके, नाउ लिसन टू मी, व्हाट इज स्लोप? सपोज आई हैव अ लाइन लाइक दिस, ओके? द स्लोप ऑफ दिस लाइन इज, definition is the tangent of the angle made by the line with positive direction of x-axis. Slope of a line is the tangent of the angle made by the line with positive direction of x-axis. मैंने आपको एग्जांपल भी दिया था, आपके घर के बाहर स्लोप्स होते हैं, एक ये स्लोप है और एक आपका ये स्लोप है। कौन सा स्लोप स्टीप है? घरों के बाहर हम स्लोप बनाते हैं गेट पे, which slope is more steep? The second one, and it is directly related to this angle theta. If your theta is more, then the slope will be steep, correct? Okay, लेकिन ये जरूरी नहीं होता कि सिर्फ थीटा पर डिपेंड नहीं करता। कैसे? अगर मैं एक और आपको एग्जांपल दे दूं, सपोज दिस इज योर थीटा एंड okay, if I suppose take like this, means it is the possible condition that you can have equal theta, but here the slope is more steep as compared to this one, ठीक है? आप इसको समझिए कि ये एग्जैक्टली केवल एंगल पर डिपेंड नहीं करता, ये एक्चुअली डिपेंड किस पर करता है? द रेशियो ऑफ दिस साइड टू दिस साइड, हाइट एंड बेस, द रेशियो ऑफ हाइट एंड बेस, इन पर ये डिपेंड करता है कि वो स्लोप कैसा होगा, स्टीप होगा या लो स्लोप होगा। सो इट डिपेंड्स एक्चुअली नॉट ऑन थीटा बट ऑन टेन थीटा, हाइट अपॉन बेस, ये उस पर डिपेंड करता है। तो ये जो टेन थीटा होता है इसी को हम स्लोप कह देते हैं, एम, स्लोप ऑफ द लाइन। तो यहां पर ये क्या बन रहा है? ये थीटा है, इसका टेंजेंट है, तो ये क्या होना चाहिए? ये टेन थीटा क्या होना चाहिए? स्लोप किसका? कॉर्ड का, स्लोप ऑफ द कॉर्ड। सो व्हाट दिस, हाउ यू गेट V average? by slope of chord joining T1 x1 and T2 x2. Suppose you are finding out the average velocity in the time interval T1 to T2, right? Then how you will find out the average velocity from the graph? What you will find? You will find out the slope of the chord joining T1 x1 and T2 x2, and so from here you can say that the slope is equal to this. So you have another formula for finding the slope. If suppose your points are x1 y1, x2 y2, you have 2 points on the line, then slope will be equal to y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. तो आपको एक नया फॉर्मूला मिल गया स्लोप का, कहां से? यहां से। और ये फॉर्मूला पढ़ेंगे मैथ्स में, ठीक है? मैथ्स में आपके एक चैप्टर है, उसमें आपको मिलेगा कि हम जो स्लोप होता है वो ये होता है, लेकिन हम उसको ऐसे भी निकाल सकते हैं, ठीक है? स्लोप tangent of the angle made by the line chord with the direction of positive time axis and can be obtained by x2 minus x1 upon t2 minus t1. Okay, now this was your t1 x1 and this was t2 x2, right? This was your t2, this was t1 x1 and x2, right? So this is the slope of chord, right? Now suppose I decrease this time interval, means I take this t1 here and t2 also close to it, so close that they are nearly 1 point. Now t1, t2, I bring them so much close, infinitesimally close, so that they become a single point, and when this become a single point, this interval will become a instant. Are you getting my point? आप समझ रहे हैं? इसका मेरा कहने का यहाँ पे मतलब ये है कि t1 और t2 को हम इतना क्लोज ले आए, इनफाइनाइटेसिमली क्लोज, जैसे मैंने आपको जीरो के क्लोज बताया था, इतना क्लोज है, तो दे आर नाउ नॉट टू डिफरेंट पॉइंट्स बट दे आर व्हाट दे आर लाइक अ सिंगल पॉइंट. ओके, तो जब आप इसको क्लोज लाते रहेंगे तो ये कॉर्ड नीचे आता रहेगा और फाइनली जब आप इनको यहां ले आएंगे तो ये कॉर्ड कहां जाएगा? यहां पर, और ये क्या बन जाएगा? कॉर्ड क्या बन गया? क्या बन गया बताइए? राइट, ठीक है. तो जब आप अब ये टेंजेंट का आप स्लोप निकालेंगे तो आपको क्या मिलने वाला है? वेलोसिटी. अभी हमें स्लोप से वेलोसिटी मिला था. पोजीशन टाइम ग्राफ में जब आप स्लोप निकालेंगे पोजीशन टाइम ग्राफ का तो आपको क्या मिलता है? वेलोसिटी. लेकिन अब आपका टाइम इंटरवल क्या बन गया यहाँ पे? इंस्टेंट. तो जब आपको इंस्टेंटेनियस वेलोसिटी निकालनी होती है तो व्हाट यू फाइंड? यू फाइंड स्लोप ऑफ टेंजेंट टू द कर्व. ठीक है, एट एनी पॉइंट, सपोज एट एनी टाइम t. ठीक है, किसी भी टाइम t पर, जैसे मैंने आपको एक क्वेश्चन पूछा था दैट व्हाट विल बी द इंस्टेंटेनियस वेलोसिटी एट 150th मिनट. सो व्हाट इज योर t? इट इज 150th मिनट, 150, राइट? सो सिमिलरली हाउ यू फाइंड स्लोप, how you find instantaneous velocity? By finding slope of tangent to the curve. So now remember, finally I am writing V average slope of chord. Okay, if you are finding the slope of chord, you are finding out the average velocity, and if you are finding out the slope of tangent, then you are finding the instantaneous velocity. How you will get the formula? Limit delta t tends to 0 delta x upon delta t, which is nothing but dx upon dt. Okay, and how you get this? As delta x upon delta t. So these formula you will have to remember. Okay.